Hi, everybody. Welcome to chapter 6. And chapter 6 is devoted to the man you see on the screen, Socrates. And boy, so much to say about Socrates. I'm going to try to make this video short, I promise, okay? But I could really go on for hours and hours and hours talking about Socrates because his contribution to philosophy and knowledge and psychology and it's just enormous. It's incredible. And to this day, when I pick up a psychology book, you'll see references to Socrates because I mean he really nailed it. And I hope what I'm saying is going to become somewhat evident during the video. So okay, so there's the pre-Socratic philosophers, right? And they're called pre-Socratics for a reason. Those are oldest philosophers before Socrates, right? In at least in ancient Greece. And why the distinction? Um, well, that should tell you something about the importance of Socrates, correct? Well, the first philosophers they were concerned with understanding reality, the world, the cosmos, and so on. Those were the first philosophers, and then the Sophists came along with a different take on knowledge. They criticized knowledge. They made claims that knowledge is impossible. It's relative, subjective, and we cannot have anything like objective or certain knowledge about the world, about anything really. Of course, there is a group of sophists who sort of disagree with that, and this is something I addressed in the previous video in chapter 4. But Socrates brought a whole revolution in this in philosophy in ancient Greece because he, unlike the first philosophers, he thought, gosh, the most important thing here to be understood, that the main mystery to be solved here is ourselves. So, I mean, it's good and all to try to understand the world, how the world works and the cosmos and those things, right? And know your science. That's important. But by far the most important thing is to know, to understand ourselves. And so Socrates brought this whole conversation of philosophy, the great conversation, to ourselves. He put us in the at the center stage, so to speak, of philosophical inquiry. And Socrates is so noble in his pursuit. Like he was incredible. For example, one of the main things, or let's say two things that distinguish Socrates from the sophist, is that number one, Socrates did not charge for his instruction. As a matter of fact, he would claim that he didn't have anything to teach, really. And yet he had several followers and people who considered him the wisest man in Greece. And to me, definitely one of the greatest philosophers of all time. So he was incredibly wise, and yet he did not charge for sharing his wisdom. Unlike the sophists who made a lot of money and they had that reputation, right, of being um, great instructors, paid instructors, and and the sophists would go along telling people, and I'm thinking of Protagoras, you know, if you hire me, if you associate with me, if I become your teacher, then you're going to not only be successful financially, but you're gonna be a better person, right? And this is something that Socrates sought out to question, right, and criticize about the sophist. Uh, Good, you're going to be a better person. How? Compared to what? What standard? We're going to get to that in a moment. But Socrates, number one, did not charge for his instruction, for sharing his wisdom. Number one, so he was not interested in that. Number two, he was what he was really interested in was the truth, understanding everything, but the really truth of everything, and that was his main concern, the truth. So he was absolutely committed to that, and he committed to that pursuit to the very end. I mean, the his execution is something I can also talk about, but I don't want to make this video too long. But anyway, he was committed to the pursuit of truth to the very end, to his death. And how did he pursue the truth? And this is a very important point I want you guys to make note of, because this is crucial in understanding Socrates, and that's the so-called Socratic method. Many people today, especially educators, they talk about the Socratic method. What is the Socratic method? It's the method of asking questions and digging and in order to understand things, in order to attain the truth. So, for example, rather than telling you about what's true and what's not true, what's knowledge and what's not knowledge, the Socratic method is something like, let's have a conversation. If you have a question about something you want to understand, well, that's the right place to start. Let's say you want to understand the nature of justice. Okay, well, what is justice? Okay, that will be a great place to start. And then, okay, you ask the question, and then I try to provide an answer or try to provide an example, and then you ask me back for more details, and then this conversation goes back and forth, and the asking questions and answering, and that's sort of the method. Asking questions, having a conversation in which we're trying to pursue, trying to get at the bottom of the issue we're investigating. And that's how this issue becomes evident, right? The truth of the issue becomes evident to us in the conversation. This is something that has a lot to do with the idea of the logos, okay, which is goes back to the pre-Socratics and the first philosophers. And Heraclitus, remember, he came up with that idea of the logos. Actually, we talked about the logos also in the previous video on chapter 4 on the sophists. But basically, the logos is something amazing. It's once again the rational structure of the world. And logos means, among other things, reason, argument, dialogue, conversation. Logos has all those meanings. So Socrates would say, well, that makes perfect sense, because in the context of a conversation, we can understand things. We can arrive at truth. So let's go back. Socratic method. Okay, let's say my 3-year-old, she asked me, Dad, what is that? And she's looking at my water bottle, and I say, well, that's what do you think it is? I would reply to her question with another question. What do you think this is, honey? What does it look like? And she would start thinking, that looks like a jar, a bottle. Yeah, but what kind of bottle? Well, like a plastic bottle. And okay, and what's in it? She would probably say, well, that I think that's water, right? You drink water, right? That, yeah, of course. So you know what this is then, right? So water bottle. And why do you think I need a water bottle? And I would continue asking her questions, forcing her to think and making her arrive at the right conclusions, right? So to fully understand what this is and what's the purpose of it. So okay, so that's the Socratic method, and many teachers today believe in that's the right way of teaching, that's the right approach to education, rather than giving students information about the world, engage with them in a conversation so students can arrive at the right can draw the right conclusions themselves. You just help them getting to those conclusions, because you see, Socrates would say that the truth of things, the knowledge of things is already here. We already got it here. It's just not evident to us, and we need others to engage with us in the analysis, in the conversation, so these things become evident to us. This knowledge that we have. Interesting, don't you think? So that's the Socratic method that Plato would call dialectics, and I think that's also in chapter 6. That's a mention. There's a mention to that. So so Socrates did not charge, right? And Socrates was concerned about the truth, not success. He was not interested at all in success. He was committed to the truth. In fact, he would say, if you're interested in success, if that's your main thing, then you're not going to profit, uh, hanging out with me, being around me, because that's not what I'm about at all. So if the truth, if knowledge gets me to a very to a place that it does not look at all like success, like financial success, well, I'm okay with that. If I'm going to be worse off in the end, but at least knowing the truth, Socrates would say, in your eyes, I might be worse off, but I know I'll be better off. Because if you have the truth, then you're much, much better off. Hmm. Would you agree to that? Um, let's say some truths are difficult, right? But I often in my ethics classes I ask my students, let's say you're in a sentimental relationship that it's very very important to you, very special. You really love this person you're with, and let's say that I find out that the person you're with is being unfaithful to you, is cheating on you. Okay, you don't know that, and I ask my students in class, raise your hand if you'd like to know if you're being cheated on. Every single person raises their hand, and I tell them, you see, you want to know something that you know it's going to cause you pain, right? But you don't care. Well, you do care, but you care mostly about the truth because we sort of we feel like we're going to be better off knowing the truth. Maybe we're going to end up in a bad place, a place of, I don't know, depression for a while. But we're going to be better off in the end, Socrates would say. So now, a couple of requirements, right? Socrates, I already mentioned, since he's not interested in financial gain, that kind of success, he says that, okay, two things are required for you to pursue the truth with Socrates, right? Socrates would tell his followers, right? Number one, if you're too interested in, if you're not open-minded, okay, if you have beliefs that you don't want to question, well, we cannot hang out. We cannot associate because you're not going to learn anything from me, and I'm not going to learn anything from you. You have to be open-minded about your knowledge of the world, about knowledge of everything, about your beliefs, your opinions. You have to be willing to revise those views, those opinions, and in light of new information and in the context of the conversation, in analyzing things, inquiring, you have to be open-minded to change, modify your ideas, or just or completely give up some beliefs that you have and adopt better beliefs. So that's number one, right? You have to be open-minded. And number two, you cannot be too concerned with your ego. I mean, and people don't like to be proven wrong, right? And you might agree, right? It's kind of like not cool being spotted as an ignorant, uh, and you don't want to be, you don't want to be there, right? You don't want to be exposed as an ignorant, as somebody who does not know. And Socrates would say, why not? I am the biggest ignorant in the whole world, right? And Socrates would actually go around Athens and ancient Greece just professing his ignorance, telling everybody, hey, you know what? Um, I don't know anything. I think he's famous, among other things, for saying, Socrates is for saying, I only know that I know nothing, right? So every time he would find somebody claiming to know a lot about something, claiming to have some expertise, Socrates would get very, very excited. He would go up to the person and say, "Hey, so you're an expert on religion? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that's amazing because I have so many questions because I'm so ignorant about religion." So, and he would start asking his questions to this so-called expert, and that's a dialogue called Euthyphro, a Platonic dialogue, a dialogue written by Plato, in which Socrates is one of the characters, and Euthyphro, right? And they're having this conversation about religion, the nature of religion and piety, and 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 Socrates, it's kind of like annoying all these questions he asked. Number one, because he asked question after question after question. Like this guy really wants to know the truth. He wants to get at the bottom of things. He wants to truly understand everything. So he's very good with details, and he would ask about those details. And those people professing expertise, they would find Socrates annoying, not simply because of his questions, but because Socrates was, with through his questions, he would be putting these people on the spot as ignorant. Uh, so many times the conversation with Socrates and other people would not go in the right direction because people would start feeling like, gosh, I really don't know a whole lot about what I think I know. So, and that's the ego, right? That you should not be too mindful about, or not at all. Like if you're really committed to the pursuit of truth, who cares about your ego, right? Just pursue the truth and be courageous because it takes a little bit of courage, right? So those would be the two requirements to for anybody who would want to profit from a conversation with Socrates. So number one, being open-minded, and number two, not being too, into their ego and pride and that sort of thing. So actually, Socrates, and this is in the textbook, Socrates says that you should be glad for being proven wrong. That's something you should celebrate, being put on the spot. Like you should celebrate it because Socrates says if you're proven wrong, that means you have escaped a great evil. Yes, because there's nothing more dangerous than having wrong, false opinions, ideas about the world. That is that is a scary place to be for Socrates. So if I believe in A, and you sit with me and we have a conversation about A, and you prove to me that my views on A are incorrect, I'm going to be so thankful to you, and I'm going to be so glad, okay, because now I know better about the nature of A, and I'm sure I'll be better off knowing, having better or more certain knowledge of A. So, and Socrates says, so that it's the main thing, right? So that's why we should not be concerned with our ego. I was thinking of this philosopher. Um, top of my mind, I can't remember. Maybe you guys can look it up and post a comment. Is contemporary philosopher. Well, he lived during the 1900s, and he offers a perhaps the best justification or the best explanation for why thinking it's important, why it's important to think. And he said, and you can look it up, this quote, he said, we think so our ideas die instead of us. That's that's why we think. That's why thinking is important. So our ideas die and not us. Because think about it. If I mean, a child might think that gravity is no big deal. It's just nonsense, right? And might entertain the idea of just plain walking um, on the edge of a building, and she might end up, you know, killed, dead in the process. I should say dead. So you know what I'm saying. Um, I'm gonna be better off knowing the truth. So if I'm proven wrong, I'm very likely I have escaped a great evil. So that's why we think. We think so our ideas die instead of us. So the logos, right, having to do with the Socratic method. I think it's fair to say that the Socratic method makes the logos uh, real, right? It's a way of engaging, or it is the right way of engaging with the logos, with the rational structure of the world. That's the right way, perhaps the only way to engage with the logos and to understand how nature works, how everything is, understand, having good certain knowledge and understanding of everything, including myself. Now, um, think about, I mentioned psychologists, right, who would often quote Socrates. And this issue of conversation logos, the Socratic method, think about therapy, right? In the end, that's what therapy is. Therapy is a conversation in which the patient is, patient is there because, let's say, he's suffering from something, anxiety, depression, and he does not fully understand why he's suffering. He does not understand the cause of his suffering and how to do something, so how to fix the problem, because it's not even clear what the problem is. You have all these questions, right? And you suffer when you are depressed. So you go to therapy. And what is a therapy? It's a conversation. Your therapist does not know what your problem is, does not know what's wrong with you, but he or she engages with you in a pursuit of the truth, right? Of knowledge, and in asking questions and digging in your past, your experiences. The goal is that at some point you will have an aha moment, revelation of the logos, making it evident in the conversation that you had a maybe the root cause of your problem has to do with I don't know, some experience you had, a painful experience you had when you were little. You were probably physically abused, or has to do with uh, being abandoned by one of your parents. And so that's the goal, that the cause of your suffering is revealed in the conversation, and you go, wow, okay, now I get it. Now I understand why I suffer this much, and I understand now the dynamic with my father, let's say, and how that is the cause of so many of my problems and my insecurities and my fears, my anger, so on. And once you have this knowledge, then the healing process starts, right? You start to heal, to feel better about yourself, because you now understand things. Now you know the truth. Well, that can only be revealed in a conversation. So that's therapy. Socrates would say that any conversation has the potential to be therapeutic. I hope you remember that. Every conversation, any conversation has the potential to be therapeutic. I can tell you that is 100% truth. Like, I have, I actually talk to people about anybody about my life. Like, I don't care. I'm a pretty open book. My wife sometimes she complains because she says, "Honey, you just met that cashier, that supermarket cashier. You pretty much told her your whole life." And I'm like, yeah, I know, and it's okay. Sometimes when I'm struggling with something, I have a doubt or a fear or whatever. I'm annoyed, especially. I'm annoyed. I have that need, almost the urge to talk about it with somebody. Obviously, the first person would be my wife, but if she's not around and I have a coworker, let's say, making copies next to me, right, and I would bring up the conversation and see what happens, right, and because I know that I would feel so much better after the conversation. I know things will be revealed to me. I hope that does not sound too spooky for you, but it's true, friends. Again, I'm talking therapy here, nothing crazy. Now, uh, Socrates complained about the sophist and this whole idea that knowledge is relative, is subjective, and he would say that relativism. Remember Protagoras, who said man is the measure of all things, right? That in the end knowledge is subjective. Room might be hot for you, for me, it's great. For a third person, might be cold. And who's right? Everybody's right. Protagoras would say knowledge is relative. And Socrates would criticize that view, saying that it's relativism is pure intellectual laziness. Intellectual laziness. That's being lazy. Because, yeah, it's easy to say, like many people say today, that's your truth, it's not my truth. That's easy to say. When you say that you don't have to do any investigation, you don't have to engage in any conversation. I mean, the conversation stops because you're basically saying whatever, right? You believe that? I don't. That's it. There is no motivation. There is no real desire to understand, what we're talking about. If we disagree, why do we disagree? Let's see why we disagree. What are your reasons for your position? And I tell you my reasons, and right, That's the dialogue. That's the Socratic method. That's engaging with the logos. And that's the only way we can understand things. We can understand each other and we can understand the world. We can understand ourselves. But to say, no, that's your truth, not my truth. Okay, that's it. There's no inquiry. There's no digging, no conversation. And so it's laziness because it's a lot of work. I mean, gosh, think therapy again. I mean, you can go to therapy or you can be in therapy for years, because it's not easy. It's something that takes discipline, dedication, work. Talking and dealing with these issues and your past and your fears and your anger, just over and over and over and over again, talking about how you're feeling and with the goal of healing, right? Uh, but again, it's only truth that's gonna heal you. So, and Socrates would say that relativism. A lot of people today are relativist. I'm so sorry to say, and a lot of people, right? A lot of people say that today. That's your truth, not my truth. That's your opinion, not mine. And you're entitled to your opinion. Okay, so if everybody's entitled to their opinion, then what does that mean? Everybody's right. Everybody's right in their own opinions. If everybody's right, nobody's right. That's the truth. Nobody's right when everybody's right. So Socrates says that relativism and subjectivism has it definitely shows your character, has an impact on your character, your moral character. You're a lazy person, you're a cowardly person, because, like I said, the pursuit of truth requires courage, and so that's a deficiency, right, in people who are have that mindset, the relativistic mindset. Um, and a psychologist that I'm reading these days, don't remember his name, but his book, the book I'm reading, it's called The Road Less Traveled. And he talks about people who are like that. He refers them as having a character disorder. Uh, so he says in the book that there's two, normally, broadly speaking, two categories of people with a mental condition. One are neurotics, people who suffer from depression, and the other group are people with character disorder and people who are lazy, people who don't care about the truth, and they're suffering because of it, but they don't know, or they don't want to acknowledge that. So Socrates says, and again, I said this already. The truth will make you a better person, will make you happier, will make you more, whatever, virtuous, whatever you want to say, will make you better in every single way. The truth will make you grow psychologically, spiritually, and you'll become wiser, stronger, and wow, there's so many benefits. So, and again, those features, right, speaks of a moral character. So the opposite of having a character disorder, it's having a great character. But what gives you one and not the other? It's the truth, right? How committed you are to the truth. I believe this 100%, friends. So that's why I love that man on the screen. Finally, this is probably one of Socrates' most famous statesmen, right? Quotes. And look at the screen. It says, "An unexamined life is not worth living." Okay. On this statement, I can make a video of 2 hour long video. But again, I'm not gonna do it here. An unexamined life is not worth living. If you are not examining yourself regularly, if you don't spend time with yourself walking, just walking with yourself, not listening to music, just walking, or just being out there, outdoors, thinking about your day, thinking about your life, thinking about your relationships, your kids, your parents, your wife, thinking about work, thinking about, and just thinking, by thinking, I mean assessing, analyzing everything you're living, everything you're going through. If you don't spend time revisiting your beliefs about people, about the world, That's the process of examining oneself. If you're not doing that on a regular basis, you are living a worthless life. Like your life must be really, really difficult, at least not great, because you must know who you are. You must know why you do the things you do. You must know why you believe in the things you do. And by knowing, I mean you must have a justification for every single thing you do, every single thing you believe in. By justification, I mean if somebody asks you, why do you believe that? You can immediately offer an account. You can say, well, I believe that because of A, B, C, and D. Like you know your reasons. Why do you say that? And you can do the same. Okay, I said that because of whatever, A, B, C, and D, and you provide your reasons. So you know what you're doing. You know why you say the things you do. Nothing about you, it's random or crazy or, right? I mean, there's a reason for everything you do. That is living a great life, according to Socrates. And to me, that's the foundation. This idea is the foundation of existentialism. And I'm a big fan of existentialism. I consider myself an existentialist thinker. And and I have recorded lectures on existentialism, modern existentialism, and my thing, it's mostly existentialism. It's mostly that statement right there. Living an examined life, personal growth. Yes, personal growth. So I mean, everybody should be mindful of personal growth, right? This is something that everybody should want and pursue and for themselves, right? Feeling like you're bettering yourself. Every day you're a better person. You understand more things and you feel better about yourself and so on. So who does not want that? Right? This is what everybody wants, what everybody needs. This is what leads to a good life, a happy life, knowing yourself. But that requires having the courage to pursue the truth and having the humility to admit and even celebrate when you're proven wrong. Okay, let's say that's too hard for you. Let's say you don't want to celebrate when you're proven wrong, but at least you should be glad, right? You should be open to that possibility, being proven wrong, something good for you. Um, if you have that mindset, that attitude, gosh, then your life is going to improve tremendously. You're going to be you're going to be a great person and you're going to be happy. So that's why Socrates matters. And again, okay, I'm looking at the time. I'm 33 minutes into this video, and I could use so many examples. Like you have no idea, but I'm gonna stop here. I hope my hope really is that you take this advice from Socrates. It's nothing crazy, nothing too complicated to understand. Commit to the truth. Be open-minded about what you believe in. I know that's terrifying to many people. Terrifying, changing your beliefs. Engage in conversations with people. Be honest about what you're saying you believe in. That's another requirement I forgot to mention. Be honest about what you're saying. So I totally forgot that one. So the requirements, right, to profit from Socrates, then I have to add that one. Be open-minded. Don't be too concerned with your ego. And number three, be honest. Be honest about what you believe, what you feel. Don't hide it. Don't sugarcoat it. That's what's necessary for you to become a better person, to grow mentally, spiritually. So, well, thank you so much for watching. I would love to hear your thoughts. So please post comments, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.